Welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We are your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today is the 8th of June, 2017. It's a Thursday, kind of a big day. We've got the UK elections and the Comey hearing all in one day. We're going to start out with Comey.
You know, I didn't really want to bring, honestly, I didn't care, but, you know, we had cable reinstalled today, and yeah, the guy had it playing, and he had it playing, so I heard it. I heard most of it, all of it. I've heard,
My favorite line was when Comey was asked, and I literally busted out laughing. I was like, did she really just ask this question? Or I don't know if it was a he or a she, but the question was, do you think that if Clinton had won the election, you would have been fired? I'm like, what is this, a child's game? I mean, this has got to be the most petty, ridiculous hearing I have ever heard in my life.
Well, there's a couple reasons why this hearing went on, but one of them is because Comey thinks he's a stud, and he wants everyone to hear him, and he was so upset about being fired, he wanted to come and bring forth his thing, but on the flip side, he did have to put to bed, to rest, into the grave 6 feet deep, the fact that there's no Russian colluding evidence with Trump that we keep hearing about over and over again. And if you stick with us throughout the day, I'm going to show you some crazy, crazy Democrats out there who just keep pushing it like it's fact. Anyways, this was kind of the crux of the story, the piece that we didn't know. What about those memos? Were they real?
Exactly.
And how did they get to the press? Yes, they were real, and he's going to tell us how they got to the press.
I can't give him the punchline.
And finally, did you show copies of your memos to anyone outside of the Department of Justice?
Yes.
And to whom did you show copies?
I asked, President tweeted on Friday after I got fired that I better hope there's not tapes. I woke up in the middle of the night on Monday night, because it didn't dawn on me originally, that there might be corroboration for our conversation, there might be a tape. And my judgment was I needed to get that out into the public square. And so I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter. Didn't do it myself for a variety of reasons, but I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel. And so I asked a close friend of mine to do it.
Pause this right here, because I'm not sure if you're going to bring this up, but when President Trump's attorney came out today, he said, actually, when you go back to the dates, that the New York Times released the content of those memos the day before that tweet.
Was that Mr. Wittes?
No, no.
Who was that?
A good friend of mine who's a professor at Columbia Law School.
So, so he just lied there. He said, I did this as a result of the tweet. When actually, excuse me, Mr. Comey, according to President Trump's lawyers,
it now turns out
they have now said that the dates do not coincide with that. It wasn't the tweet first, and then you leaked, then you leaked, then you leaked, and you leaked. You were a leaky ship, you leaked. Then you leaked the memo. It was actually you leaked the memo and then the tweet.
And also here on MSNBC, the bigger thing isn't, to me, when. It was the fact that
he leaked it, period.
The FBI director, he didn't go to the press. He gave it to a friend to leak, and all of this I'm not using. Okay, so all of this craziness has been surrounding around a bunch of leaks.
Right.
And Comey is against all these leaks, right? We got to find the leakers. And then he is one. This goes to prove to us all that there is a systematic corruption within the system.
Duh.
And this is how they go about it. And he sat there and called WikiLeaks intelligence porn.
In his previous hearing.
Well, what was it that you just laid out there? Anyway, so here we go.
Comey is a chicken who's afraid of seagulls. I mean, the idea that he would not tell the press about these memos and he would have some law professor serve as a surrogate to leak information. The last person in the world who should be leaking information is the director of the FBI.
I can't even look at his face anymore. He's such a liar. He's so, he loves himself. He loves to hear himself. He loves to be the center of attention. He is a Clintonite through and through. And speaking of being a Clintonite, I thought that this would be a great time to bring this article up. And the reason why I want to bring it up is because there are three things that Marco Rubio hit on, and one of those is that Trump ask you for loyalty? And Comey says, yes, he did.
But he didn't say that he outright asked him. It was more of kind of a smoozing of a conversation. It wasn't Trump coming out and saying, do I have your loyalty?
It was more like, hey, I know you're in the pocket of the Clintons. Can you still work for the United States, and can you work for me?
Exactly.
And the reason why he would do that is because Comey has a lot of dealings with the Clintons, and I don't know why this isn't talked about, but he made $6 million in 1 year alone from the
Lockheed Martin.
Yeah, and Comey, he served as Deputy Attorney General under John Ashcroft for 2 years in the Bush administration. When he left the Bush administration, he went directly to Lockheed Martin and became Vice President, acting as a General Counsel.
Lockheed Martin has given $6 million, or how much was it? Go back.
Well, no, that's how much he made. I'm sorry,
that's not what I meant to say. I meant to say that they became a Clinton Foundation donor that same exact year. So there's your link.
Exactly.
You missed that line. I want to make sure that
was... right. The same year that he earned $6 million, Lockheed Martin became a Clinton Foundation donor. Yeah, exactly. So, and that was in, how much money did James Comey make from Lockheed Martin in his last year with the company in 2010? That was $6 million. According to records, Lockheed Martin is also a member of the American Chamber of Commerce in Egypt, which paid Bill Clinton $250,000 to deliver a speech in that same year.
And we've talked about that.
So he gets paid $6 million. Bill Clinton gets paid $250,000. And then in 2010, Lockheed Martin, the company he just left, won 17 approvals for private contracts from Hillary Clinton in the State Department.
Leah, that's purely coincidental.
Exactly. So in 2013, Comey became a board member, director, and a financial system vulnerabilities committee member of the London bank HSBC Holdings. Mr. Comey's appointment will be for an initial 3-year term, which, subject to re-election by shareholders, will expire, blah, blah, blah. And he made a lot of that. They retrofit these public housing units to be green. It was $1 billion in financing for this green initiative, and of course that was partnered with the Clinton Foundation.
Right.
And then also Peter Comey is his brother, and I'm just going to try to link to this article because he has so many. There's so many connections with him and the Clintons there. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up there to kind of give you a reminder of why Trump would ask for loyalty. So we're gonna...
I don't think that it's beyond the realm of something right for a sitting president to ask the FBI director, who was the FBI director under an opposing...
They touched on it there.
Sorry, go ahead.
Administration, if they can still be loyal to the new administration.
Exactly.
To me, that makes total sense. Why is it like some sort of mafia question?
Exactly.
This is absurd.
Right. So, speaking of those
three things. He asked for your loyalty, and you said you would be loyally honest.
Honestly loyal.
Honestly loyal. He asked you on one occasion to let the Mike Flinton go because he was a good guy. By the way, you're aware that he said the exact same thing in the press the next day. He's a good guy, he's been treated unfairly, etc., etc. So I imagine your FBI agents read that.
It's like his
sure
face is melting.
The president's wishes were known to them, certainly by the next day when he had a press conference with the prime minister. But going back, the three requests were, number one, be loyal. Number two, let the Mike Flinton go. He's a good guy. He's been treated unfairly. And number three, can you please tell the American people what these leaders in Congress already know, what you already know, what you've told me 3 times, that I'm not personally under investigation?
Those are the 3 things he asked. Yes, sir.
You know, this investigation is full of leaks left and right. I mean, we've learned more from the newspapers sometimes than we do from our open hearings, for sure. You ever wonder why, of all the things in this investigation, the only thing that's never been leaked is the fact that the president was not personally under investigation, despite the fact that both Democrats and Republicans and the leadership of Congress knew that and have known that for weeks?
I don't know. I find matters that are briefed to the Gang of 8 are pretty tightly held, in my experience.
So, yes, there we have it, folks. So what he said was there's no Russian collusion whatsoever. And then you have, lo and behold,
It's always been, as all...
our buddy buddy Chris Matthews saying, we need to put the Russian collusion thing to rest, and I'm like, okay, what's up your sleeve, man?
I know, exactly.
Listen, I think Nicole really touched on it there. The assumption of the critics of the president, of his pursuers, you might say, is that somewhere along the line in the last year, the president had something to do with colluding with the Russians, something to do with the helping hand, encouraging them, feeding their desire to affect the election in some way. Some role they played, some conversation he had with Michael Flynn or Paul Manafort or somewhere. And yet what came apart this morning was that theory, because in two regards. The president said, according to the written testimony of Mr. Comey, go ahead and get anybody's satellites in my operation and nail them. I'm with you on that. So that would mean Manafort, Carter Page, someone else like that. And then he also came across what was fascinating. Comey said that basically Flynn wasn't central to the Russian investigation, that he was touching on it, that there was, of course, Flynn hadn't honest, we assume wasn't honest in his answering of the official forms that he had to fill out to become national security head, but they've only touched on that it wasn't really related to that, but he could be flipped for that. But in other words, they could flip him because they had him caught on something he dishonestly answered, but he wasn't central, it seemed, to the Russian thing. And I've always assumed what Trump was afraid of, he had said something to Flynn, and Flynn could be flipped on that, and Flynn would testify against the president that he had had some conversation with Flynn in terms of dealing with the Russians affirmatively. And if that's not the case, where's the there?
If that's not the case, where's the there? That's a really good question. And so I wanted to bring up this picture here. So dead silence here in Brooklyn Bar as patrons watch Comey's testimony. And then this person says, that face you make when reality hits and you realize you wasted 6 months of your life on something that doesn't even exist, the Russian hoax. So that was awesome. And then the media is in...
Get off Twitter! Get off Twitter! What is that?
It is, I want to control the narrative. Remember with the WikiLeaks, we had Cuomo over at, what was it, MSNBC?
CNN, he said, we're only allowed to read it, you can't.
I'll control this. And we're seeing this with the statues in New Orleans. I'll take down the statues and I'll put them in this museum over
we haven't
here.
Talked about
we
that.
haven't covered that yet. We've been meaning to.
And then I'll tell you what the statues mean. It's all about controlling the narrative. It's all about power. And the funny thing about us is they call us fascists, but we are about the least power possible. We want to dismantle the government.
Exactly.
We want everyone to control their own narrative.
Well, sure.
And that is seen as fascism.
Well, sure. I mean, first it's say gay and homosexual. Then it's let me take down the statue. Then it's don't use the word mother or father. They want to control language.
So even with this Comey hearing, everybody is like in full, like spinning, everybody's spinning everything right now. And so here was another one I wanted to bring to you. Pretty much with Comey leaking, what is that? What could that mean? I mean, to me, I would think that he would now need to go under investigation, but you know what I mean? It's just complete chaos.
Comey. I can't remember a time ever where a former FBI director has deliberately leaked the contents of a government document so it would get to a reporter in the hopes that it would prompt a special counsel investigation. And one of the problems, I'll say, for James Comey right now is that in his last public testimony here on Capitol Hill before the Senate Judiciary Committee, right out of the gate in that hearing, he took a series of questions from the Republican chairman, Chuck Grassley, and Chuck Grassley asked him whether he had ever been an anonymous source for reporters about the Hillary Clinton email investigation or the Russia case, and James Comey testified no. Then he asked him whether he had ever authorized someone else to be an anonymous source on his behalf on the Clinton email case and the Russia case, and James Comey said no. So
that's all you need to hear right there. He lied under oath.
Exactly. And let's see. I
mean, we could cover this all day stinging long because literally the bits that I caught firsthand without going back and watching them, I'm just like shocked, like jaw dropped, like, are you serious? Right. You're sitting there, and I'm thinking this to Comey, you're sitting there with a straight face, all Mr. Confident, like, oh, I didn't do anything wrong. You want to know why he's got that confidence? Because he really thinks that he's got this protection. He thinks that he is untouchable. Well, I have news for you, Mr. Comey. You're not untouchable, and you're about to get touched, and you're not going to like that kind of touching.
So here is where he talks about Loretta Lynch here, and it's pretty disconcerting. He says,
for those of you that are not in the United States and you don't know who Loretta Lynch is, she is the former Attorney General under the Obama administration.
She's the one that met President Bill Clinton on the tarmac, and then
at one point the Attorney General had directed.
And he does say here that it was her coming to him saying, hey, listen, don't tell the public it's an investigation. Just tell them it's a little matter. And he said that's when he took matters into his own hands. So
at one point the Attorney General had directed me not to call it an investigation, but instead to call it a matter, which confused me and concerned me.
You made a comment earlier about the Attorney General, previous Attorney General, asking you about the investigation on the Clinton emails, saying that you've been asked not to call it an investigation anymore, but to call it a matter. And you had said that confused you. Can you give us additional details on that?
Well, it concerned me because we were at the point where we had refused to confirm the existence, as we typically do, of an investigation for months. And it was getting to a place where that looked silly because the campaigns were talking about interacting with the FBI in the course of our work. The Clinton campaign at the time was using all kinds of euphemisms, security review, matters, things like that, for what was going on. We were getting to a place where the Attorney General...
The Clinton campaign was using the word matters, and Loretta Lynch says,
call it a matter.
Yeah.
Joe and I were both going to have to testify and talk publicly about it, and I wanted to know, was she going to authorize us to confirm we had an investigation? And she said, yes, but don't call it that, call it a matter. And I said, why would I do that? And she said, just call it a matter. And again, you look back in hindsight, you think, should I have resisted harder? I just said, all right, this isn't a hill worth dying on. And so I just said, okay, the press is going to completely ignore it. And that's what happened. When I said, we have opened a matter, they all reported the FBI has an investigation open. And so that concerned me because that language tracked the way the campaign was talking about the FBI's work. And that's concerning.
It gave the impression that the campaign was somehow using the same language as the FBI because you were handed the campaign language and told to be able to use the campaign.
And again, I don't know whether it was intentional or not, but it gave the impression that the Attorney General was looking to align the way we talked about our work with the way a political campaign was describing the same activity, which was inaccurate. We had a criminal investigation open. As I said before, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We had an investigation open at the time, and so that gave me a queasy feeling.
It gave us all a queasy feeling, you queasy monster.
Oh my God.
Okay, so one more thing I want to bring to you is...
Although the law required no reason at all to fire an FBI director.
That particular video, I did listen to that. That was kind of like Comey coming out saying I shouldn't have been fired, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But I think we're going to sign off just because this is getting a little bit longer. And I want to bring you Trump's... lawyers, his side. We heard Comey's side.
I thought it was phenomenal, and I wish that Leah actually had the Fox analysis afterwards, because I'm literally watching, because we just, like Leah said, we just had the cable and stuff. We don't ever watch television, ever, and the guy had it on. So I'm watching this guy come out, and I'm like, dude, the guy, he slayed it. I thought it was phenomenal. And then the Fox News analysis come on afterwards and ripped the guy to shreds, which I thought was rather interesting. So,
okay. So we're going
to sign off here for Resistance Chicks, where it is not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell for notifications. Find us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. We love you. God loves you. God bless. Don't forget to meet us in Bozeman, Montana, June 23rd and 24th. That's coming up very, very shortly for the Red Pill Expo. That's www.redpillexpo.org.
I was called